Hi, and welcome to another interview. Today I've got the fabulous Robin with me, and a little backstory before we say hi to Robin. Robin is in the Steak and Butter gang and losing weight and sending progress pictures. And I approached her a little while ago, and she was so confident. She said, "No, not yet. I'm going to lose my £100 first before I speak to you." So lo and behold, she's lost her £100, and here we are. So, Robin, hello.
Hi. Hi there.
Hi
Thank
there.
you for having me.
Well, thank you for agreeing to do the interview. And I know it's the first one you've done. We will put your pictures up so people can see the miraculous change in your body composition. But I will ask you the question I ask absolutely everybody. And so, Robin, why did you become carnivore?
Okay, well, I became carnivore after receiving a type 2 diabetes diagnosis in April 2023. Um, my doctor put me on the weekly diabetes injections. And at that time, I was 260 pounds. And I decided I have to figure out how to get off this medication and how to reverse my diabetes because I didn't want to be on the medication for the rest of my life. And so I started doing research, of course, online about how to cure or reverse type 2 diabetes. And the first doctor that I came across was Dr. Ken Berry, who was a very popular carnivore doctor. Dr. Ken Berry talked about if you want to reverse diabetes, you have to decrease your carbohydrate. And he basically explained that if you're diabetic, you're taking in too much sugar and too many carbs, and it's not necessarily genetics that's causing your diabetes, because I've always thought it was about genetics, and I'll talk about my family in just a second. But Dr. Berry talked about decreasing or turning down your carbohydrate knob. And he basically said that if you get that carbohydrate knob below 50 or 25, you will eventually reverse your type 2 diabetes. And at this point, I'm like, I will do anything at this point because I don't want to take injections for the rest of my life. And so Dr. Berry had a 30-day challenge. He called it the BBB in E challenge, which is like beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. And I thought, well, I love eggs. I love bacon. And I love all kinds of beef and steak. And so I thought it was doable. And so I took the 30-day challenge. And let me just give you a little bit about my background and why I thought that this was a genetic issue. First of all, everyone in my family, in my immediate family, they're all diabetic or were diabetic. I'll say that. My father died in 2014 from complications from diabetes. He Just to tell you a little bit about him, he was a pastor of a church, a very small church, where the congregation would bake him cakes and cookies and pies and send it home to us. And so we always had sweets in our house. We also ate out a lot. I want to say we ate at a restaurant at least 3 or 4 days a week. So we ate out a lot. We went to church a lot. We had meals at the church, spaghetti dinners, chicken dinners, those kinds of things, full of carbohydrates. Anyway, towards the end of my father's life as a diabetic, he had kidney failure. So he was on dialysis. He started having many strokes, so he could no longer walk. He became totally blind. And so he lived with me. I moved him into my house the last year or so of his life because he couldn't walk. He couldn't see. And he was on dialysis. And it all started with diabetes. you would think that I would have researched then, but I didn't. I didn't do any research then on how to cure. I just wanted to take care of him. So moved him in and we took him to all of his doctor's appointments and everything. So that's my dad in 2014. My older brother died at age 39. He was 39 in 2006. So he died before my father. He was over 300 pounds. And to give you a little bit of background on my brother, he was over 300 pounds. He would walk around with a 2-liter soda, Mountain Dew, under his arms. Anytime you saw him, he had a Mountain Dew, or we called it a big gulp from 7-Eleven. They sell those, supersized sodas, but he always was drinking soda. We joked in our family about when he died, maybe we should bury his favorite cup with him, because it was Mountain Dew and Dr. Pepper, every day, all day. And so he had congestive heart failure, but as a result of diabetes, congestive heart failure towards the end of his life, his feet would swell, but he was only 39. So that's my brother. So I told you about my father, my brother, my mom. She's still with us. Thank God. I've moved her in. She's 80 now, but she has been on insulin injections for 21 years. So she has been diabetic and on insulin injections. She was going blind. She has had several cornea transplants. The first one she had probably for a few years. And because of diabetes, of course, it didn't last very long. So then she went back for another cornea transplant. So basically, I said all of this to say diabetes has taken a toll on my family. Just to give you a little bit more information about myself, because I was pre-diabetic, I had polycystic ovary syndrome. I could not conceive, so I've never had children because I was pre-diabetic with insulin resistance. So I suffered from infertility. And so it has taken its toll on me and my family. And so I think when I got the actual diagnosis, it became real to me because I knew I was pre-diabetic. I knew I was struggling trying to have kids. And I knew that I had insulin resistance, but I just thought, I'm not diabetic, And then in April of last year, I actually got the diagnosis. And once I got that diagnosis and she gave me injections, and I'm like, I'm going down the road just like my dad and my brother and my mother. And that's when I just became focused. And I said, I've got to do something. And then I started watching these videos and I found Dr. Berry and then Dr. Chafee and Dr. Kiltz and joined the Steak and Butter Gang and have lost 102 pounds now. But I've also made lots of lifestyle changes. It's not just carnivore, but I've started working out. I go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week. I drink lots of water, absolutely no soda, no carbohydrates, no sugar, just a total lifestyle change, which I knew had to be done to avoid taking the path that my family has taken. So let me add this. I've also gotten my mom, who's 80, and she lives with me. She's also on the carnivore diet as well. She's still taking insulin injections, so her weight loss is much slower because I found that those injections make you gain weight, taking insulin. So she's lost about 25 pounds so far. And she's 80, so of course, and she's been on insulin for 21 years. So it's slower for her, but she's losing weight as well. And she's her the amount of insulin she's taken, she's decreased that so far, which is great. I also want to mention that my husband has taken a big role in this. He grills for me and my mom. He makes steaks and ribs and chicken on the grill for us. So he has played a very big part in losing the 102 pounds that I've lost. And so I guess the only other thing I want to mention before you ask me all the questions that you want to ask me, I found that community's been very important to me. I joined the Steak and Butter Gang, like you mentioned before. And once I joined the Steak and Butter Gang, I started adding fasting to carnivore. So I've got the carnivore diet, I've got the fasting, and I've got community. And I think just putting it all together and the exercising. So it's a combination of a whole lifestyle change. So that's why I became carnivore.
And that's amazing. For someone that said before we started, I might struggle to tell my story and you might have to prompt me. That was amazing. Robin, that's such a good story. Obviously heartbreaking. And I will have to say, you're so magnanimous to not be bitter and angry about what happened to your family, to realise, things could have been different if you knew what you knew that now then, but we won't go into that. I mean, it's great that you've got your mum losing 25 pounds and helping her at age 80 is fabulous. Well, you snuck in there that you've just started a little bit of fasting and about the community. The Steak and Butter Gang is a particularly good community, very supportive. Do you feel any animosity? Do you feel angry at all that you weren't told this even, a year ago when you were diagnosed, that there was a different thing you could try?
I don't feel bitter or angry. I'll say that the thing that makes me sad is my fertility. I will say that makes me sad because I'm 54 now, and I believe it's too late at 54 to have kids. Although I talked to Dr. Kiltz and he's like, oh, it's never too late is what he says. But I think that's the part that makes me sad, that maybe if I had found the carnivore way of eating when I was 34 instead of 54, 20 years earlier, if I had found, this community or this way of eating, then maybe I would have kids. But I also believe things work out the way that they're supposed to work out. I would say that if I can save anybody at this point, if anybody else can hear this, or when I talk to people, even at the gym, there was this one guy that I was talking to at the gym. He said that he had cancer. And I was like, well, do you eat sugar? I'm like, well, cancer, sugar could cause cancer. So now I'm just an advocate for the diet. I'm wanting to help as many people as I can avoid the life that I've had. If I find someone that's struggling with infertility or cancer or diabetes, I'm just the spokesperson for the carnivore diet now. I think my family and friends, my extended family, they're tired of hearing about it. They're like, we're not doing that all meat diet that you keep telling us about. But I'm like, but you got to try it. And so if I can help anybody, that's my goal now. So.
Yeah. Well, I would have to say, for people on the audio podcast, you do not look 54. I mean, I was quite surprised when you said that. I would put you late 30s. So obviously you're doing something right. And it's your attitude is to be admired, because it would be easy to be bitter and angry, but you're not. So that's really good. Are you enjoying this way of eating? Do you find that it's more enjoyable than you expected?
I absolutely love this way of eating. And I, like I said, I wish I had found it so much sooner. I want to say about 20 years ago, I did Dr. Atkins. Yeah, he had that book, The Atkins Revolution. But at that time, I was trying to add in the carbohydrates, which I think if you're trying to do low carb, it's difficult because those 20 grams of carbohydrates, to me, it increased your cravings. That 20 to 50 grams that you're still having, it makes you crave more. And so I was able to lose some weight with low carb, but I still had cravings. With this way of eating, your cravings are gone if you don't have sugar at all. If you have no carbohydrates, then you don't crave them anymore. And so, just to tell you a little bit about my regular diet, excuse me, in the morning, I'll have eggs and bacon, and I have cheese as well. So I'll have like scrambled eggs with cheese and bacon. I just absolutely love that. Who doesn't love eggs and bacon? The problem is we usually have a waffle and French toast and pancakes with those. So if you don't have those things and just have the eggs and bacon, you can even have an omelet with sausage and bacon and cheese. And so I love the way that I eat. And then for lunch, I'll have steak or ribs or chicken or brisket, all foods that they're wonderful foods that we just love. I think the problem is the things that we have with them. We'll have the burger, but then we'll have fries and the bread, which those are the things that really cause us problems. So, but yeah, I love all meat. So it's been good.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, one of the criticism of carnivore is it's not sustainable, and yet people love it. Who's going to not sustain it if it's really enjoyable? And I've been the other side where I used to believe high carb was fantastic, and I used to have rice cakes, which is just like eating cardboard and squashing a banana on it. It's not exactly the most exciting thing to eat. I think you hit on something brilliant there, which is about eating when you have a craving. The sweet taste definitely does keep you driving for more of it, actually. I mean, it's so well studied now. I think everybody knows that sugar is addictive. And when you said about going to even just above 20 grams of carbs that made the cravings worse, this is one of the things, that I find is possibly why some people leave keto, because they still have those sweet treats or they have things with sweeteners in and stuff like that. So what do you do about drinks? Do you have any sweetened drinks at all, or do you just have coffee or tea or just water? What about that?
Okay, I don't drink coffee at all. I do drink the Element, LMNT, the flavored drinks, and they have a bit of stevia in it. I tried the raw unflavored Element. So the Element, it's electrolytes. So it's sodium, magnesium, and potassium. And it's supposed to help with like leg cramps, so you won't have leg cramps. Or sometimes when you cut out all of the carbohydrates, your body might have reaction because you're not having all of your electrolytes. So I daily at least have one packet of the Element drink. I should call it LMNT instead of Element, but so I have that. I only have water, so I try to drink at least 4 bottles of water a day. I take 2 bottles to the gym with me in the morning, so I'll get my first 2 bottles in, and they're usually the first 2 bottles are just clear water, nothing in it. And then when I come home, I'll mix a pack of Element with 2 bottles, and then I'll try to drink those 2. So I'll have 4 bottles of water every day. Definitely no soda at all. No coffee, no tea, or anything like that. Although in the carnivore community, there are many carnivores who still drink coffee without sugar, of course, and some drink tea, but I don't drink any of those things. So.
Okay, that's cool. So when you decided to go carnivore, what was your family's reaction? What were and people around you, people you work with, how did they react?
Well, let me think for a second. I have a best friend. I need to mention her. She I call her my ride or die. She's my friend that's willing to do whatever I come up with. So I'll call her and I'm like, hey, do you want to try this with me? And she's like, okay, I'll do it. And so we decided to do the 30-day challenge together. And we actually started July 1st of last year. So in a week, it'll be my 1 year carniversary. But she decided to do the challenge with me. And I think for the first 30 days, we didn't tell too many people. We just wanted to do it. And then I started telling people. My husband's always supportive. Like I told you before, he grills for me and cooks for me. But his mom, my husband's mom, was the first person to say, I think you need vegetables. She's like, they have vitamins, they have minerals. You need those. So she was the first person to give me the vegetable lecture. My doctor, I went to visit my doctor about 2 weeks ago. And of course, with the carnivore diet, your cholesterol's up. Your LDL is up. And I don't know the exact numbers, so don't ask me the numbers. I'm not a numbers person. I do have my charts and I can look at it, but I know those two numbers were elevated. My A1C was down though, and that was my purpose, right? My A1C is back to normal. Let me say that. But my LDL was up and my cholesterol was up. And my doctor said to me, are you still doing that all meat thing that you told me you were doing? Which she put in my medical records. I need to say that. And I said, well, yeah, I am doing that. And she's like, you really need to have a balanced diet, she says to me. She said, you should eat some vegetables. And she's like, or do you want to go on medication? Do you want to take a statin for your cholesterol? And I said, no. I said, when I started this, I knew that my cholesterol would be elevated because I had watched enough of the videos that said you're going to have those things. And I was able to tell her, I don't think my arteries are being clogged. We can do the scan was the CAC test to look at my arteries. And she did. She ordered the test. I haven't taken it yet, but I know based on everything that I've researched, these numbers will go up, but you can also get a test to find out if your arteries are being clogged or not. So I'm pretty confident that they're not, but I will take the test. So to answer your question was, what did your family think? What did your coworkers or friends think? My family was okay. I did get a couple of lectures about eating vitamins, but then my doctor is like, you should, have some vegetables or else you're going to have to take a statin. And I was like, I don't think so. But she says, I will document that you refuse to take this statin. And I was like, okay, I'm willing to. She wants to cover herself and she wants to document that she told me to do this.
Yeah, I mean, that's a standard duty of care. I would say about the coronary artery calcium scan, I've had that luckily before I did this way of eating. And it was very high, 639. But and I know it's not carnivore because I wasn't carnivore when I did it. So it's going to be interesting when I have a retest. I actually told the radiologist this is going to be really high because I've had loads of carbohydrates all my life. And it was. And whereas my wife, who went in and had tests at the same time, who was eating bacon and eggs and avoided bread and sugar all her life, she had a 0. So pretty convincing that it's not fats and it's not meat that causes the problem. I avoided those like the plague. Anyway, right. It's not about me, it's about you. But I thought I'd say that for people listening because you could have the test and you could have a little score, I don't know, whatever it is, and it won't be carnivore. It would have been your 53 years of not eating carnivore that's caused it. Right. Well, I think it sounds rather good. I'm so glad you've done this interview. Now, one of the things I think is really interesting is you offer a service now to talk about emotional eating, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Even before I started carnivore, I've been a licensed professional counselor. I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist. So I've always talked to people about their issues, of course, about depression and anxiety and things that are going on, problems they're having in their lives. So I've just added this tool to my toolbox. If people are having issues with emotional eating or struggling with weight loss, that's also something that I can actually talk about with them now. I probably couldn't talk about it before. When I was 260 pounds, I couldn't talk about emotional eating or weight loss with my clients. But I also just talk about it with anybody. Like I was talking about the guy at the gym. So now I'm an advocate for the carnivore diet for healing, whether it's diabetes or kidney disease or cancer. It seems to me that what we eat has a major impact, even on anxiety and depression. I'm learning all of these things that we didn't learn in school. There was no class on nutrition and how nutrition affects your mood or your anxiety or depression or things like that. So yes, absolutely. I wanted
Yeah.
to add something. You asked a question. Excuse me. You asked a question about drinking soda and coffee and things like that. I do need to say, when I first started carnivore, and even now, I still have the desire for sweets. I think it's almost like you said sugar is an addiction. So I still have the desire for sweets because I remember how great ice cream is. I remember how wonderful, uh, Mountain Dew was. So when I first started, I wanted to do 3 months, 90 days, with absolutely no cheating at all. And then I told myself after 90 days, I would give myself one cheat day. And believe me, that one cheat day, I got everything that I wanted. I mean, I got ice cream and cake and just everything, Snickers and Twix. And I was like, I'm going to have a party, you know. And so it was actually Halloween of last year where I just said, I'm going to get everything I want. I will say I gained 10 pounds the day after my the day after my one cheat day. I gained 10 pounds. It took me 3 weeks to get back into ketosis. And I was regretting having that one day, but I didn't learn. I didn't learn from that. I said, I'm going to give myself 90 more days and I'll cheat again for my birthday. And so my birthday was in January, and I said, I'm going to have everything I want in January. And so I had cake and ice cream and Twix and all of the sweets that I wanted. Once again, 10 or 15 pounds from one day. And so you would think that I would learn, right? But I think that just because you're a carnivore, and I'm talking about cravings, they go away, you still have that mental piece where you remember how good those things were. Or when you're around other people, my husband is not 100% carnivore. So sometimes he'll pop popcorn and I'll smell popcorn in the house. And I'm like, oh, I remember how good that popcorn was. And so you'll still have those kinds of cravings. They'll still come. So I don't want to make it sound like if you just do this, you'll never have cravings again, you know. But I think it's better to, if you do cheat, I'll call it a cheat. If you do have a cheat, space them out because you're going to gain 10 pounds. So you just know that you're going to gain some weight, try to get right back on if you fall off, and try to get some months consecutively before you cheat, because you're not going to see any progress if every weekend you have a cheat, because you're going to go up and then you're going to just go back down, then you're going to go up, and that's very, very frustrating. So I just wanted to add that yeah, I still want those things. I still have a craving for those things, but I just know that they're not good for me and I don't want to be diabetic. And so just have to make choices. So.
Yeah, and obviously you make much better choices 99.9% of the time because you don't lose £100 easily. It doesn't come off easily. So, but I would say this: I do a lot of follow-up interviews, so I cannot wait for this time next year when I invite you back on and see how you're getting on and whether your views about cravings have changed. Because I do think the more you eat this way, they do dissipate. They do go away. It's like time is a healer. I mean, I lost both my parents when I was very young. I lost a girlfriend to breast cancer. And at the time, you think you're never going to get over it. And here I am at age 60. And yeah, if I talk about it, of course I feel sad, but I am over it and I'm getting on with my life. And I think it's the same with cravings. I used to have those emotional, situational reactions like going to the movies. I've said this before publicly. I never have ever been anywhere other than the movies where I fancied a big Coke and a hot dog. So it's not the food, it is the situation or the emotional association. So I think I cannot wait to speak to you. Well, obviously before that, on and off with some emails and messages maybe. But I think, you're a prime candidate to get back in a year's time. So enjoy your first year carniversary. I think it's fabulous that you've come on. I just want to thank you so much, Robin.
Yes, thank you for having me. I will also send you a link to my YouTube channel. I actually only have one video on my YouTube channel so far, but I just want to help as many people as possible. So I'll send you some links to share. And so thank you so much for having me on.
That's okay. And the links will be in the description. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Your support means the absolute world to me. And if you're enjoying this show, I've got a small favour to ask you. I'd be incredibly grateful if you would consider becoming a supporter and make a small monthly donation. Your contribution will really help to improve the show. I'll be able to improve the software, maybe put a few more episodes out, and do many things that I'm hoping to do in the future. Do them a lot quicker. So, it's a small monthly contribution. You can cancel at any time, and the link is in the show notes. Thanks very much for listening.